Hello, and welcome to episode 12 of our podcast series, Introducing New Artists, Conversations with Visual Arts Majors at UCSD. I'm Professor Amy Adler, faculty member in the Viz Arts Department. In this series, I'm speaking with studio art honor students about their artistic evolution, their creative processes, and the unique challenges facing emerging artists today. I'm particularly interested in understanding how our students navigate the complexities of developing their artistic voices while preparing to launch their careers in an ever-changing professional, political, and personal landscape. Today, I'm joined by Gisella Castillo, a senior in our honors program whose multidisciplinary work explores Mexican-American identity, childhood experience, and cultural connections. Through oil painting, sculpture, and collage processes, Gisella creates art that serves as both personal narrative and a way to connect with others who may share similar experiences. And I'm also joined by 12 other students from the Studio Art Honors class of 2025. Hello! We're excited to learn more about Gisella's artistic evolution during her time at UCSD and hear her perspectives on what it means to be an emerging artist in 2025. So let's begin our conversations. Greetings, Gisella.
Hello.
Hi. Could you start by introducing yourself to our listeners?
Yes, so my full name is Gisella Guadalupe Castillo Garcia, and I'm 22 years old and a senior at UCSD.
Wonderful. So if you don't mind telling us a little more about yourself, where are you from and what drew you to study art at UCSD, and maybe give us some ideas of how you wound up here.
Yes, so I'm originally from LA, from San Fernando Valley. I grew up there like my whole life. It's like the only community I know. So growing up, like I was a very creative like person. Like I really like to like dance or sing, and I just started making art like probably since I was like fourth grade. And thankfully my parents, like my family is very like supportive of what I do. So I felt like very accepted in like what I wanted to do growing up. And so I've just been making art for like my whole life. I originally wanted to go into like animation or concept artist, but I did not have the skills. Like I didn't go to like a traditional like art school, like learn from figure drawing and stuff like that. So I was immediately like stuck, like, oh, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna get into like a good art school or like get into a good university, like that even if I don't know these skills, like I could still make something. So I was actually supposed to go to SAIC in Chicago, but like through like I was actually like on a scholarship, but I had family like issues that I did not go. So UCSD was like my next choice, just because like I wanted to be close to my family, but I also did not like, I wanted to be close, but not too close to them, like have like a sort of distance, because I really value privacy. And yeah, like coming here like has really shaped the way and how I make art. And first, like I started off just doing like drawings and like being like mainly digital, and now like making like interdisciplinary. Like I don't really know like exactly what I call my art. I like to say sculpture and like installation. It's just something that I've just been enjoying as of late.
Well, you really missed some cold winters not going to SAIC.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't, because I don't think I would have survived.
So I know a bit about your current work, but let's tell our listeners about what kind of work you make and what you're working on right now.
Yeah, so I work a lot with like wood and just like material, like just like wood materials, and I also do paintings a lot. So right now I'm working on a little series based off like my religious belief, like because I grew up Catholic, and there's like the three, I don't know what it's called, like there's like confirmation, baptism, and first communion. So I'm working on that, and it's kind of like, because I have another series that's like made out of cutouts, but it's like with wood, and I really liked working with that, so that's kind of like what I'm doing now. But yeah, I just work a lot with like sculpture and like installation and wood and stuff like that.
Great. What are some of the ideas that you work with in your artist statement? One of the things you mention is this feeling of feeling not Mexican enough at times and experiencing a disconnect from your heritage. So, and you talked about some aspects of religion as well. So how does all this cultural complexity appear in your artwork?
Yeah, so I definitely, like, a lot of my themes are about my identity. I think that's one of the big, no matter like how, if it's like religious or cultural, a lot of it ties to identity, just because like growing up I've never felt like really seen in like as a person, and like even like now, like I could sit here and like with my friends and everything, but like a part of me just doesn't feel like really truly seen. So I do work a lot with like the theme of identity and trying to figure out like who I am, like as a person, as an artist, and how that all shapes. So it does show up a lot because like it shows up through like my interests or like what I'm trying to convey. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, it really does. Another thing that you mention is how different materials affect your creative process and emotional states. You know, you talk about painting as bringing a sense of calm. Can you talk about that? Like, how do various media have, you know, different effects on you emotionally, and how does that affect the work that you make?
Yeah, so like you said, like painting like does bring me a lot of calm. I kind of work with, it's ironic because whatever goes in my life, whatever happens in my life at the time that I make art is what I associate the materials with. So like painting to me is like a form of like it's like a therapeutic way to me, for me to like just, I don't know, like just kind of forget about everything that I'm going through and just like be like, oh, this is what I do, like, you know, I don't know, it just kind of like switches my brain off. So I do associate painting a lot with kind of like trying to like calm myself down. And with wood now, it's more of like a way to switch my brain off, because with graduation and like a lot of like what's been going on in my life, it's very hard for me to like sit with my thoughts. So I kind of use like the process of like sculpture and installation to just turn my brain off. I find like art making and what I do just a way, like I'm already like how I am as a person, like I'm very like anxious and stuff, and I do overthink, and I think art has made me like really like has really grounded me as a person and as an artist. So I do take into consideration with my materials a lot, and like, okay, like how do I want this to convey, like is this something, like how do I want my work, like I don't know, like just like my like how I want to convey myself and what I'm going through to others.
You know, a lot of times I think about when you're in your studio, when I'm in my studio making artwork, the rest of the time is just about getting back there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Everything else you do is just to kind of get you back to your studio.
Yeah.
And to support yourself so you can like,
Yeah.
you know, so I can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you mentioned, and in your work, there's evidence a lot of your childhood experiences as a significant source of inspiration. Can you talk about how these memories inform specific works you've created?
Yeah. So for one of my pieces, it's called Lele. It's like an installation and like interactive piece that I did like 2 quarters ago. That stemmed from like the idea of like as a kid, like, oh, like always like dressed, like always like playing with dolls, and like I just always had like a sense of like, this is gonna sound ironic, but like a passion for fashion, just because I really liked playing with like dolls, like as like any kid would, just like playing with their toys. And I think now looking back, I was so fixated, like from a kid to now, like growing up, like I kind of had to force myself to grow up, like very quickly. So I never really got to take advantage of like, being a kid, just like being first gen, like, and like doing everything by myself. It's been kind of like hard for me to like be a kid, like try to be a kid. So that piece is more like, for people to be like, just like to de-stress, like, it's just like a silly little like dress up game, like dressing up like a little doll. And it's more like looking back at myself, like, I kind of took for granted like being a kid, and like, because like everyone's like, I can't wait to grow up, I can't wait to like be 21, or I can't wait to be 18. And now that we're at this age, we're like, oh no, like I want to go back to being a kid. So I definitely, that's like an example of like how my like childhood, like kind of like how I put my childhood memories like onto like my piece now.
And one more question about your work is, your work is a combination of like really skilled kind of figurative drawing and painting, and then these more kind of sculptural, almost like childlike cutout. Can you just talk about the role of drawing and painting in your work?
Yeah, so I work a lot. It's a very complicated process that I do. Like I work from imagination, but I also use like pieces like real life like references. So an example would be like I had my other cutouts, like I had this like series, like it's called from Viz 105C. That was the first time I ever did like the wood cutout.
That was me, right?
Yes,
okay.
that was with Amy. Yeah. And that one it was a mixture of like collage, because some of the outfits that I had were like stuff that I like actually own. And then, but like the poses and like how I draw, like I don't really draw like realistically. I kind of have like a cartoonish style. So, I mean, it's just how like I've drawn like my whole life, and I really like doing that, because it's more like sometimes I have to remind myself like, like I can be realistic, like, but I really enjoy just doing that like playful like art style, just because like it truly like makes me like happy and like in that style. And so it's like also ties into the theme of like nostalgia and like being a kid, or bringing like nostalgia to others. So yeah, and just like with painting, like I do painting, but I've been like going more towards oil pastel, and it just reminds me of like just like coloring like on like the coloring book as a kid.
Yeah, that's great. Do we have a question from our audience?
Okay, so I have two. What was your first studio or your favorite studio class you've taken so far? And second, what's your favorite matcha drink to bring to the studio?
Okay, Slay, thank you, Julia. My first favorite studio class. I really liked Viz 105C with Amy, just because like that was like the first time that I really figured out like what my practice was. Just because like leading up to like I was like, like maybe I'm into painting, or maybe I'm into drawing. But then once I did like those cutouts, I'm like, like this is what I really like doing. So I think that's my favorite class as of right now, because it really like set the tone of what I do now. And my favorite matcha drink, I go to Cafe Matcha Mako, so I get an iced matcha latte with oat milk. And if they have a cold foam, I get cold foam.
Nice. So art careers are challenging, and the world is kind of a crazy place right now with AI emerging and economic shifts and evolving social media landscapes. And one of my questions is what motivates young people to become artists in 2025, and why do you think it's important?
I think, to me, I think what motivates like me and other artists to make art now is because AI, it's like you just like it just like generates digital work, and that's fine. But I think what people really like to see is like real life things. Like, I don't know, like the Big Ben, like the Big Ben. Like everybody likes going to that because it's like, well, like it's a big bean. Like, okay, slay. And I think that's what inspires me, is to make pieces that people can like look at and be like, oh, like try to pose, or be like, oh, like I wonder how they did this. Like is this like through painting, through like oil pastel, and just like making like, I guess, sculptural, like, because that's what draws the eye in my opinion. So, and it's like to me it's like, it's a very weird topic, because AI, like, it just steals ideas from like artists, and I think it will never be original, just because like it's made from a computer. And yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it's a big topic. We could talk about it for a long time. What advice would you give a freshman or sophomore just starting out in the Viz Arts department? What secret tips do you have for navigating classes, professors, or resources?
Oh, I feel like everyone has said this, but you definitely get involved. I do regret not being involved for most of my 4 years, just because since I'm very introverted, I never really got to talk to like a lot of people or a lot of professors, and also like connect with like your professors, because I feel like a lot of what peers that I know, like what they're doing, like whether it's through like galleries, like they have a showing, or they get like these cool opportunities, is through their professors. So I would recommend doing that, and also just being involved with school, just like not just being in a corner, like, oh, like I can't wait to leave. Like, no, like once you're a senior, you're gonna regret being like, oh, I wish I should have taken this class, or I wish I should have talked to like this professor, because you never know.
And it goes quick.
Yeah, it does go by quick.
Yeah, so you're about to graduate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so what challenges do you anticipate in this transition from being a student to a professional artist? And are you preparing for this in terms of studio space or finding ways to support yourself? What happens next?
Oh, right now, I have like a lot of goals. I definitely want to go to grad school. But like in a few years, I think as of right now, I just need to I'm trying to find like a full-time job that can support what I do, because materials and art making is not cheap. So I definitely am trying to find a full-time job, and also trying to balance between like my art making and also time for myself, because it's very hard to get lost in like art making, and like I'm like, oh, like I don't have time to like spend time with myself. So right now I'm just trying to find like another job, and I do plan on applying for residencies, and once I move back to LA, because that's like at the end of the summer, like I am going to move back, so that's another thing I plan on doing.
Cool. That's a great plan. And so thank you, Gisella, for this
you.
thoughtful conversation today. I'm really impressed with your work, and the way that you explore your Mexican American identity through childhood memories and cultural symbols, how you've created space not only for your own story, but for others who may feel caught between cultures or unseen in their communities. And, the way that you work under pressure and embrace constraints really speaks to a kind of resilience that is 100% necessary for an artist, and that will serve you well as you move forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yay. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this episode of Introducing New Artists, Conversations with Visual Arts Majors at UCSD. I just want to thank the UCSD Visual Arts Department for making this series possible. So until next time, thank you, everybody.